So here's a fun fact for you. Mysophobia is the exaggerated, irrational fear of contagion and germs, and not the rational fear of exaggerated mice. Usually, this is a feature of OCD, but in the past year, this has probably been a feature of everyone's mindset at some point.
Don't talk to anyone, don't touch anything, don't do anything, don't interact with anyone, and try not to look at anything.
And now that things are starting to kinda sorta, hopefully fingers crossed, get back to normal, people are slowly coming back to all the things that they missed during the ongoing Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline we've all been living through. Like seeing movies in a theater, can you imagine? One of the cinematic casualties of lockdown was John Lee Hancock's The Little Things, a tense and entertaining murder mystery that leaves the viewer with more questions than answers. One of which is, how does an accomplished and competent detective go from this to this? In this episode, we will look at yet another type of infection to keep your burgeoning mysophobia up at night. The very real process of how the mental condition of burnout is contagious. Hello, I'm Will Larius the Therapist, founder and CEO of the fictional character Mental Health Co-op, where our mission is to help identify and treat mental illness in the underserved population of people that don't exist. Hit the subscribe button to join our treatment team. And today at the Co-op, we have an epidemic on our hands, and not the kind that you can track with super unreliable forehead thermometers and stabbing your brain with a Q-tip. This is an epidemic of a behavioral disorder that is contagious. Not only that, it is more likely to spread now that lockdowns are coming to an end. Let's get to the analysis. Our setting is the film The Little Things. Now obviously this video will be giving away major plot points, so for those of you who haven't gotten a chance to see this film, which box office numbers suggest was a lot of you, consider yourselves spoiler warned. But for those of you who haven't seen this film, but have seen the movie Seven, don't sweat it, you basically saw it already. Our patient zero is Joe Deke Deacon, a disgraced former LAPD detective who wishes he was able to solve a string of possibly connected homicides. Happenstance leads him from his small town assignment back into the thick of things, where he finds that his old police precinct and a new detective are working on a string of murders that have a similar MO to the string of murders he was working on, and his wheels start spinning. From a temperamental and personality perspective, Deke appears to be a pretty normal guy. However, as we follow him along in the movie, we start to see some behavior that raises some red flags.
Past becomes the future, becomes the past, becomes the future.
Among his peers, Deke has the reputation of a cop's cop, someone who is dedicated and part of the heart and soul that the new guard lacks. However, it would be a stretch to call these relationships friendships. It is clear from the dialogue that, despite the respect and sincere concern from his former colleagues, he hasn't kept in contact with any of them since he left the force. In other words, the only reason he talks to them is to work or solve a case.
Love songs of the 50s and 60s.
You get a dental on the bites?
Right.
Deke has no personal life. He has done nothing but work on and think about this case since he took it all those years ago. His marriage has failed, along with his physical and mental health. When you look at Deke's counterproductive obsession with work, rigidity, stubbornness, and most importantly, his inability to delegate tasks, the condition that comes to mind is obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. OCPD is probably not what you're thinking about if you're thinking about hand washing, constant anxiety, and counting, which are features of obsessive-compulsive disorder. OCPD is a personality disorder characterized by moral rigidity, emotionally shallow relationships, obsession with work, and authoritarian behavior. Essentially, OCPD is the exact opposite of antisocial personality disorder, where ASPD is a disregard for social norms and personal obligations that causes severe social impairment. OCPD is an obsession over norms and obligations to the point that it causes social impairment.
I know all the symptoms.
Well, let's see. The symptoms that we see from Deke meet 3 of the DSM criteria for OCPD. 4 criteria are needed for diagnosis. However, his 3 symptoms are severe enough to cause a noteworthy degree of impairment, especially this one. Work addiction, commonly called workaholism, is a central feature of the OCPD profile, and studies on work addiction show that under certain circumstances, it is very, very contagious. According to a literature review on work addiction and burnout, this phenomenon typically follows the pattern we see depicted in the film with Deke. Internalization of a company or group's success or failure, increasingly obsessive work behavior, work addiction, counterproductive work behavior, and burnout. Given Deke's personality and personality issues, it's not that surprising that he worked himself into a burnout. But how did this burnout spread to our second patient, Agent Baxter? When we look at Baxter, we see a personality that is very different from Deke's, but with his own set of problems. Agent Baxter is a distinguished, college-educated, driven younger detective. Unlike Deke, he is very comfortable with innovation. Also unlike Deke, who is more self-directed and runs on his own instinct, Baxter tends to do things more by the book and wants to impress his higher-ups. Agent Baxter initially displays a healthy work-life balance with a superficially confident persona and a competent, hard-working approach to his job. However, his initial interactions with Deke show that Agent Baxter's bluster is a bit of a front. He is visibly flustered when Deke hijacks his press conference, which is understandable. However, he continues to obsess over and involve Deke in his investigation. An investigation Deke has no formal part in. Like, Baxter's boss specifically told him not to get involved with Deke, but he did anyway. And then, the same thing happens to him. Internalization of the company's success or failure, obsessive work behavior, work addiction, counterproductive work behavior, and burnout. One person's behavioral disorder was transferred to another. But how is this possible? And how could Baxter or someone else stop this from happening to them? Studies on social contagion and work addiction have identified several different mediating factors when it comes to social transmission of the condition. It takes more than being around that person in your office, who you've never actually seen leave the office. And you're like, do they have a home? Or is it possible they actually live here? There are two major factors that are pretty typical in workplaces where work addiction spreads. One is active influence. That is, the person with counterproductive work habits overtly tries to convince you to adopt those habits, which is something that we see Deke doing frequently around Agent Baxter. And this is certainly annoying, but it's also pretty obvious when it's happening to you. The equally important and far more subtle risk factor for social contagion of work addiction is passive influence. Passive influence refers to the attitudes and disposition of company culture. This is where Baxter really started to have trouble. While the CEO is understandably suspicious of Deke's return to Los Angeles, Deke's former colleagues are excited to see him return. This is a situation that exploits the dark side of a competitive and ambitious temperament. Remember when I said Baxter showed a superficially confident persona? Although Baxter is very competent, driven, and hardworking, his story arc shows an underlying sense of insecurity. Baxter doesn't meet full criteria for any disorder. He does show traits of vulnerable narcissism. Unlike grandiose narcissism, which doesn't even entertain the possibility of having shortcomings, vulnerable narcissism stems from a sense of inadequacy. The upside of this trait is that it can often motivate people to great heights in school and work as a way to prove the haters, chief among whom is their own inner critic, wrong. The downside of this trait is that people like this are very susceptible to the influence of a toxic work environment. The state of mind that characterizes vulnerable narcissism, this psychological superstate of simultaneously high and low self-esteem, is one that is often encouraged in toxic work environments and the less healthy section of hustle culture. You've seen the ads. You suck, your life sucks, but you have the power to change it. If you join my team, buy my program, and work really, really hard, you can do it. But if you don't, you will definitely die alone. Work cultures that are obsessed with productivity often have people who can't distinguish between dedication and pathological obsession. The old guard detectives at LAPD saw Deke, a man who worked himself into psychosocial oblivion, as a model detective. And then in comes Baxter, and they're like, look at this new guy. He works hard during a shift and then goes home to his wife and child? What a beta. Look at this guy over here with no hobbies and never sees his loved ones. Look at him. This is what dedication looks like. Solutions? Well, when looking for a place to work, be on the lookout for management that doesn't respect the time of employees. Ask employees about the culture, especially around taking time off. Realistically, there are many times where situations outside of one's control make it so that leaving or refusing to work for a less than healthy workplace isn't an option. But you can still protect yourself with knowledge. Know your goals. Know what you want out of your position as far as the long term is concerned. Do you want to advance in the company or industry? Do you believe in the company's mission? Do you just need to pay your bills? Having a clear sense of why you're at your job can help you clearly identify when you're at your job too much. Know yourself. Be honest. Are you the type of person who will do something hard for no other reason than to show up someone who thought you couldn't do it?
Careful, that stuff's pretty hot.
Oh, is it?
To be fair, there are many people who have gotten a lot out of living a life dedicated to shutting up doubters. But as we mentioned, it does have the potential to backfire. Solid knowledge about your own goals can help you manage how much time you're spending getting to where you actually want to go, and how much time you're spending dunking on haters. Moderation is key. Lastly, know what you need. What do you need to make yourself feel restored that isn't work-related? Actively make these things a priority. Many times I hear people proudly talking about how little they sleep during a project. You know yourself better than anyone else, but seriously, sleeping is productive. It's okay to be a productive machine if that's what you legitimately want, but often, when people talk about being a machine, it's exclusively in the context of going and driving for as long as they can.
I am a Ferrari, okay? And you don't keep a Ferrari in the garage.
Ferraris need gas. Just saying. Special thanks to our patrons. If you'd like to see your name on the fictional character mental health co-op donor wall, check out my Patreon. Doctor-level patrons get videos ad-free and a day early. If you'd like to see an analysis about a movie that secretly is about the mental mechanics of a vulnerable narcissist, click here. I'm Valerius the Therapist. Thanks for watching.